See, Microsoft, they want your fingerprints all over their computers, and Halo might be back on the big screen. CBS wants something to do with Last FM, and will the crappy summer movies please stop? I mean, it's the week that was. It's The Loop Week in Review. All right, my guest tonight, movie editor for USA Today, Scott Bowles, is here, and gear editor for IGN.com, Dr. Jerry Block. Gentlemen, welcome back to The Loop. Let's get this thing started. On Wednesday, Microsoft unveiled a touchscreen computer called Surface. Now, this is going to allow users to interact with objects using their hands rather than a mouse and a keyboard. Oh, and by the way, it's also a coffee table. Now, Jerry, Microsoft claims that this product is going to change the way that we interact with technology forever, and that's exactly what they said about Windows Millennium. So should we believe them?
You know, they do say it's going to change everything a lot, but the Surface deal might actually work. I think I saw the first demo of it at CES 2006 when Gates was doing his whole technology of the future and human interaction with computers and things like that. It was a big concept, and I think, you know, Microsoft always wants to be the company that brings things together and actually makes devices properly converge. And the Surface may actually do just that. Its interactivity with devices, I think, is the real key issue. You put a camera on the Surface. It shows you the pictures. You can schedule your PDAs that way.
Sure.
Gates did a really cool demonstration where he put a smartphone on the table, and it splayed out his entire schedule, and it knew that he had a plane flight coming up. So it popped out a little window, and it had real-time traffic information and his route plotted all through it. It was a really good presentation, and it brought together proper computing interactivity with and all the devices that we use so much today.
But a part of you, Jerry, has to worry that you're at a bar, you set your phone on the wrong table, and suddenly everybody's staring at your crotch shots, which have popped out for everybody to touch and interact with.
It's true, you know, there's danger with it. But on the other hand, this is going to take a long time to develop. The first actual commercial implementation of the technology, I think, will actually be a little lame. The devices simply aren't ready to interact with it.
Right.
But this is something that's 5-10 years down the road, and at that point, it'll be cheap. Devices will be better. And I think in the end, there will always be people who aren't comfortable with a mouse and keyboard and on-screen menu interface.
Scott, are you one of those guys? Are you psyched for this thing?
I think this is going to be a $10,000 coffee table. I mean, people spill their Cokes on their keyboards right now. You can only imagine what they're going to do to this thing. I think it's a great idea, and I think Microsoft is learning that sometimes to look cool is as important to be cool. They're following in Apple's footsteps. But people are just now adapting, I think, to the computer. And the idea of putting something on a table, it's going to take a long time. I would say 15 years we might be seeing this technology. But
in 15 years, Scott, will there be one in your living room?
As a coffee table, yes.
Okay. I just can't wait to glass bottom boat somebody on it. But you can Google that later. Microsoft has been trying to get a Halo movie made for quite some time now. The film was on track with Peter Jackson producing, but then when the movie lost its funding, Hollywood apparently lost interest as well. Now Jackson feels that with the release of Halo 3, interest might be rekindled. Scott, you tell me here, is this movie actually going to happen? I mean, it's a no-brainer for Hollywood, right?
It's going to happen, but it's going to happen cheap. I mean, the one thing that Hollywood is learning is that video games expensively because they just don't bring in enough money. With Jackson's name behind it, it'll get made, but it'll be made for less than probably 50 or 60 million bucks.
All right, Jerry, I mean, Hollywood doesn't have the best track record with video games. Is this going to be a huge letdown for the fans? I can't imagine they could ever live up to the hype for a Halo movie.
Probably not. You know, very little, especially nowadays, actually lives up to the hype. But, you know, if they shoot it the right way, video games, if you cheese them up too much or if you Hollywoodize them a bit too much, a la Doom, it doesn't go down well. The director that Jackson has in mind, though, has a real penchant for robots in the future. If they shoot it Space Marine style, harkening back to the Aliens thing, I think it could work, you know?
I'd line up regardless. I don't care what the Rotten Tomatoes ranking is. I'm there. Now, earlier this week, CBS purchased Last FM, a social networking site devoted to music, for $280 million. Scott, what does CBS want with Last FM? I mean, do they want the demographic, or do they care about the technology, or do they just need new tunes for their iPods?
CBS is sort of like going on a spending spree without a shopping list. They know that Last FM has about 15 million users. They want those users. They don't know exactly what they're doing with the net. I think a lot of these conglomerates are in a feeding frenzy for all things internet, and they don't know what they're going to do with them. It can turn out to be a smart purchase because ultimately it's a good site.
Sure.
But CBS has no idea yet what to do with it.
Yeah, Jerry, it seems like traditional media companies, they just keep buying up .coms like the MySpaces, the Wall Strips, Photo Buckets. Why? What's the point here?
I think to a degree, established media is scared to death of Web 2.0. It changes the entire dynamic, and what they're traditionally offering doesn't match in any way. I think this acquisition is pretty much just to get in the game, to have a MySpace-like website, and I honestly wouldn't think that it's going to change dramatically at all over the first 2 years of CBS's ownership. Someone
in a suit in a boardroom slams a table and yells, "We need the tweens," and someone goes out and spends $28 million, something like that?
I think so.
Or 280 even. All right, critics seem to agree that Spider-Man 3, Pirates 3, Shrek 3, they've turned out to be the worst movies of their respective franchises. Scott, whether or not you agree or disagree with that, I just want to know, this summer, man, it's turning out all right in terms of box office dollars, but the quality seems to be lacking. So what should we be on the lookout for if you're of my mindset, which is these movies so far have been a little lackluster?
Look for small. I mean, the secret about this summer is that there are actual alternative programming. There are small movies, Waitress, Away from Her, Once, 28 Weeks Later. They're actually good small movies that are getting sucked up in that threequel vacuum. The threequels have taken up all the press at the box office, and none of them have delivered. The thing to do now is to go to the multiplex, find the one theater out of 16 that isn't showing Spider-Man 3, and catch it, because there are actually good small films out there.
Jerry, what about you? We're going to see you attending Knocked Up or Mr. Brooks this weekend?
I'll be honest, I actually only go to the theater for action spectacular. I mean, once you've got a nice home theater, comedy, anything else is probably better enjoyed at home, which is what I do.
So you're waiting for Xbox Live, pay-per-view, video on demand, the million other ways you can watch your media now?
Exactly, digital distribution, it's where it's at.
All right, there's a million theater owners right now crying very softly. But I want to thank you guys. Thank you, Scott and Jerry, for joining us in the Loop Week in Review.
Attack of the Show, weeknights at 7, only on G4.